مثل Batra Daf كوب عين بيت هنقول على 3 lines down. أما له ربلا برش لأنه كاتب الشرط the إكنات. Whoever writes documents of transfers like sales or loans. كيفيته when you're writing it اشتري أكناتها when you're writing it. Yeah, didn't you imagine if you know when the transfer actually happened, the date that it happened. كيف you write that? If you don't know the date, كيف you imagine كما stand write the date that you're on right now, يعني that day that you're writing the document. كي ياخد لون محسوب الشكل so it doesn't look like it's a false document. ما له رب سفرة Rav used to tell his sofer بخير ما رب هنا سفرة كمية في Chile when you're in Chile كيف في Chile write it that you are in Chile. رافع قاب the مثلا لخو من بهني even though the transaction is happening elsewhere. كي كمان بهني when you're in Henny كتب بهني off page مثلا لخو من Chile even though it's happening in Chile write that you are in Henny because it goes by where the document is being written. Maraba. Hi, Mandanakit Sharaba my Azuz. The person is holding a loan document for 100 zuz. Bamari tells the court, take this document. I want you to make it for me into two separate documents of 50 each. Loma Shvinanhu, we don't do without the buyer's approval. My time, why? I've done it, Hachamim made a takana that we should be made a takana each for the lender and for the borrower. They each have a perk. Why? Nihal al-madhe. It's good for the lender because if the guy pays the borrower pays half, he'll have to get a receipt and he'll be nervous about the receipt, so he'll be forced to pay the full amount. Also, another reason why it's good for the borrower is because we don't want to separate documents, and will allow him not to write. We won't allow the lender to make two separate documents, and that's good for the borrower because he can't collect a partial payment after a second partial payment unless he has a shivua, so that protects him if he pays back half. Okay. I'm gonna have another halacha. If a person has two loan documents, 50 each, but he wants to do the opposite. Make it into a single document of 100. The takana is good for the lender and borrower. How? Is good for the lender. If the loan is partially paid, he doesn't have to swear about the second one because it's a separate document. It's good to the borrower because he won't have any pressure paying it back. He pays back 50, that's one document. He won't have to worry about the receipt because he already paid one back. The person has a document for 100. But Marni tells the court, make it into one document of 50. Lamashvili they don't listen to him, even though he's seemingly taking the loss. Why? My tama. I mean, because he said the following might be happening. He already paid back the full $100. And when the guy says give back the document, if I could rip it up, the guy says I don't have it, but the guy read a receipt instead. And now what's he trying to do? He really has the document. We'll give him the 50 document, 50 the new $50 document. I'm gonna tell the borrower, he's gonna tell the borrower this is a new loan, pay me back this, even though the guy already paid it back. That's why we don't do it. There's two brothers, one rich, one poor. והניח להן אביהם حسب the father left them a bathhouse or an olive press. As if the father was renting them beforehand, you continue to rent them and they split it. If the bathhouse was used for the family's personal uses, the rich brother can tell the poor one, use your slaves to let them bathe in the bathhouse. Or take olives and use them in the olive press, which is basically saying if the rich brother wants it the personal usage so that he can keep it for himself. The poor brother wants it to be rented out so he can make money because he doesn't have slaves or olives. But since the father was not using it for was using it for personal usage, the poor brother can't force the rich brother to rent it out. Shnaim shayu be'erechad with two men in the same town. Shem echad Yosef ben Shimon b'shem echad Yosef ben Shimon. Both of them had the same name. And you cannot have a loan document against each other. Nobody else can also force one to pay because the other guy can say it's because he could say no, it's the other guy. Let's say the document that was found. Yosef ben Shimon Perua, the document of Yosef ben Shimon is paid. Sharot Shnehen Peruin, they're both considered paid, even though because it wasn't specified. So how do you avoid this problem? So you want to borrow from one of them and you don't want to get messed over. You do as follows. Yishal add a third generation. Yosef ben Shimon ben Levi, like that. They're the same exact third generation family. Siman, write a feature, the tall one, the short one, etc. If they were similar, you could write something else. Who Kohen. If the guy one of them's a Kohen, you could write he's a Kohen. Okay. I was showed the Bedina that if one of those document that happened in Rav Huna's court. The Havaktibe was written. Ani Ploni Bar Ploni Laviti Mane Mimmecha. I am Shimon, borrowed $100 from you. He didn't mention who the you was. Rav Huna says, Mimmecha, the words from you, I feel Meresh Guta, can mean even anybody, even the Meresh Kaluta, I feel Meshubur Malka, even from the king. Therefore, you can never collect money. Marla of Hizda, he says, Puk Ayin, go check into the halacha, Dil Urta, Baila, Chavuna Minacha, because in the end, this rabbi doesn't ask you the question. Navak Dak Bashkak Kivan from Halacha. That's how the person says, Get Shesh Lavadim, witnesses on the sign and the get. The end was man, there's no date on it. Abashua says, Im Katubo, Gerashti Hayom, if it says I divorced her today, that's saying what they today is kasher. Amma was from here. How hayom how yom mashma. It sounds like whenever today. It sounds like the day that the day the court sees document. Hachanami said over here regarding the money I paid back. I borrowed from you. Mimecha means I mean I will go to the guy who holds the document. Obviously, is the guy that lent the money. Where I says 1 second. Yeah. Maybe he holds like Lazar. That the get goes by the person who's handing over the witnesses who witness the giving over. Regarding the money, maybe we're worried about the guy, he dropped it. Maybe regarding the lender, the reason we're not worried about the date is because the get was already confirmed via the giving over the get to Edim. Fine. Over here, though, maybe, and therefore it should not work by our case as lender, because maybe this guy just found the document in the street. Who says he's a lender? The Gemara says, we're not worried about falling. How do you know they're not worried for falling? The Mishnah says, two men at the same time, they can't do document against each other. No one can use document against either of them as well. It sounds like they can produce documents against others. Right? The Shimon ben Yosef can go to someone else and say, "Hey, someone could borrow money from him," and they can't claim, "No, I borrowed from the other guy." How come? How come? Why is that the case? Maybe the guy dropped that Yosef ben Shimon dropped it, and the other guy found it. Last minute, we see from here, maybe we're not worried about the document falling. So, over our case, we're not worried about the document falling. The Gemara says, no, there's a difference. What does he hold? It's true. In that case, we're not worried about the other Yosef ben Shimon finding it because it's a very low chances that this guy drops it and the other Yosef ben Shimon finds it. But in this case of the document, if it's just from you, quote unquote, then anybody could have found it, and therefore we're worried. A lot of times, the next Braita says, same way they can't, the two Yosef ben Shimons can't go against each other. They can't produce against another people. They might commit. What's the machloket? If you're not worried about dropping. Where it says, whether or not letters/documents can be considered the kinyan. Our Mishnah holds letters are transferred through handing over the document, and therefore we can assume that the guy who's holding the debt owns it. But then the Braita holds the guy who holds the document does not have the kinyan. Therefore, the guy who's holding the document does not consider the owner.